Okay.
All right. Oliver's here yesterday, but I'll go through like basics just to get you oriented, and then we'll get into it.
Sure.
So this is the Maneuver Warfare deck construction strategy card game. Designed it because I learned enough from fellow designers to be dangerous and want to try it on my own. It's approach is to try and sort of gamify current and future warfare concepts into a card game that you could put into your cargo pocket and take with you and play basically anywhere if you're a serviceman. But obviously, I'd like other people to play it like the more the merrier. But what I really like about deck construction style games is you got to think about what cards you want. You have to plan your bid for victory, and you have to try and have counters for your opponent, and that's military planning in a nutshell. This is just a gamified version. So your object here is to try and drain your opponent's will. War is a clash of will, so I've literally given you will as your game currency, and it's also your random number generator to adjudicate certain things. So the different numbers are associated with different adjudication areas. So this is for strikes, this is a leadership number, this is a detection number, and then this is a generic fog of war. So if your card does not specifically say detect or strike, this is the number that you're going to look at.
I'm just going to wave those in front of the camera. Aha. Okay, so the will deck, these are your random numbers, and so what were they in order again?
Black leadership, detection, generic, and strike.
Strike. Got it. All right. There we go. All right, cool.
So, and then you have your cards, which are, I pre-made these, but you have, those are your maneuver cards. This is your will deck. This is your maneuver deck. Most of your cards are sort of combat elements that go around the battlefield. Right? They look fairly normal. They all have a sort of a shared set of attributes. Strike, which is your offensive power. Resist, which is your defensive. Resilience. Move, how many domains you can move on the battlefield. And then leadership, which represents the quality of the humans that are in that unit. You'll notice this is a drone. It does not have leadership. However, I left the attribute on there in case in the future I decide to give robots leadership. And that'll be scary for everybody. And then you have some other, not every cards have these, but other attributes. Detect, if it has this, it means it can forcibly detect that type of concealed stealthy unit. Enablers, that means you can attach certain cards to it to make this unit better, and that tells you how many and what type. Deployment constraints. And then the card text, these are either special things or constraints the unit's going to have. So most of your ground combat units will have this logistics constraint, so you need to keep it in supply or it's going to be a lot less powerful. It might have special movements or attacks, and it's mostly self-explanatory, I hope. Your number in the white box is the number of will it takes to deploy it, and then if you lose it, this is your will loss if that thing is destroyed in combat. You can also, this can cover kind of a sacrificial thing if you decide to sacrifice it. There's two different types of combat. Most of the time we play like the long range strike one, but there's a second sort of close combat where that number would also come into play. And then these are other unit attributes that tells you this is a ground combat type unit, and this tells you it's a larger unit size. As opposed to like this, which is a smaller unit size.
Got a little bit of glare going on here. Okay, there's our smaller unit size. Got it. So, cool. Folks can just hit pause on the video to see what's going on here. All right.
All right, so that's most of the cards you would put in your maneuver deck. And then you also have these types of cards, which are friction cards. These are things you can, this is bad stuff you give to your opponent outside of the normal turn sequence. And the capabilities, they're hopefully self-explanatory. Some of them have prerequisites. So for example, your contested logistics, you need the strategic support force in the information domain to be able to play that card. Whereas this one, as long as the target's on the table, you can play it.
Okay.
Okay, and then the final sort of, it's a unit, but it exists in the information domain, so it's kind of weird, right? So you have, your terrestrial domains, and then we got space and information. These types of units are information units. They are a thing in the information domain, but they're not like targetable by missiles or bullets. They're not physical. However, they can affect things in the terrestrial domains. So you do not want to simply give the information domain to your opponent. That will be bad for you. And these things have individual capabilities they can do, but like you saw, they chain. They can be prerequisites for other things.
Yeah.
Or they can make other information cards cheaper to use.
So the stack of stuff you have over there is just other parts of the deck that we're not playing with. That's
Yeah,
just,
so this is like the full red and the full blue
Gotcha.
set. However, for the gameplay, you're gonna have 60 cards in your deck, 30 will cards. You can have less if you want to have more stuff, but because will is your victory condition,
Yeah.
you have less will. You're making it a little bit easier for your opponents. So you got to decide what you want to do.
Okay.
For this tutorial, this is 15 and 15, so it's like a half deck. And I just realized I need to swap that out. Sort of how these things go.
Okay.
All right, so this takes us to the battlefield, and then we'll go. So you're fighting on, domains. That's the terminology these days. So I just went with it. Different types of domains. This is planet Earth. So you got water, farmland, mountains, kind of stuff. In the normal game, this would be a semi-randomized setup. So you would walk to the table. You'd have built your task force. And then each player you'd shuffle your will cards, flip it. Whoever has the higher generic number has initiative for the game and gets to go first. And then they would start alternating between with initiative and without. Each player picks 3 domains from the options here and starts building the battlefield.
Okay.
Then the player who does not have initiative randomly picks 3 additional ones, and they can put them wherever they want to kind of split up the battle space. And then finally, the first player, they're going to fill in the gaps. I have some basic sort of like rules of planet Earth so that you're not violating the laws of physics or geography. And then once that's done, you've built your battlefield, and then the last step is laying down, face down, these cards which are called domain variables.
Okay.
These are mostly environmental, but they can be civilian, or they can be key terrain or objectives that are going to be randomized on the battlefield. And so you're not gonna know sort of what the most important part of the battlefield is until this happens.
Gotcha.
So you lay them all down. I have variables to include information domain and space as well.
Okay.
So you lay them down, you flip them over, you just read the card text. It'll tell you if it applies to the domain or not. If it does not apply, you remove it from the table. If it does apply, it stays there, and then it's a permanent effect for the rest of the game that both players are going to have to deal with.
Gotcha.
So what I've done here is I've pre-made this. So in both of your ports, you have civilian shipping, which means if you attempt to strike against a Navy target in there and you fail, you're going to take an extra will penalty for blowing up Disney Cruises. And then here in the middle, this is land domain key terrain. So this is a semi-important part of the battlefield now. If you control it, at the end of your turn, you're going to drain 1 will from your opponent.
Gotcha.
All right, and the way you control is back to that leadership aspect here is to control, you have to have at least 1 leadership present, and your opponent has 0 in that domain.
Okay.
Doesn't mean they have 0 units, but you saw like drones have 0 leadership.
Yeah.
So he could have a bunch of drones there, but as long as you have 1 leadership and he does not, you control that domain for the purposes of both deployment and also for securing that key terrain.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then that completes the setup, and then you would start to play a game. So, let's see, Oliver, you were here yesterday, so if you want to start out the gate here, we'll have you take initiative and go first. And then the turn sequence, there's little player aids, there's a turn sequence. These are what all the icons mean on your various things.
Okay.
This is special terrain rules, but we don't have them on the table, so you don't have to worry about accidentally blowing up a nuclear power plant.
Darn.
Activate wheels.
I mean, yeah, unless you really want to.
We have one down the road from us here. We can go blow up Sharon Harris.
Expend wheel to draw, discard, maneuver card.
So when you're expending will, is it like literally every time I pull one of these cards it goes away, or we keep
No.
recycling this deck unless something tells us to get rid of them?
So for your will deck, when it says expend or use,
Yeah.
you're spending it to a sort of a used pile, and then it's going to recycle to your deck
Okay.
at the end of the turn. When it says lose will, however, you're going to put that lost card on a separate area face up to indicate that it's lost.
So it's out of the game.
It's out of the game. It's not permanently out of the game because you have mechanics where you can recover it.
Oh, okay.
Right, but you have to you got to plan sort of how you're going to strike that balance because you are going to lose will. You need to have a plan for getting it back so that that will loss is not, catastrophic for you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, that makes sense.
But otherwise, like the will thing, you'll see it's like it'll be a kind of a cycle. So you'll use it, you'll activate it, you'll spend it to use it and do things, and then it recycles back to the reserve pile here at the end of your turn.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so on the first turn, you see the turn sequence here. First
Yep.
turn, neither of you have stuff on the table, so you are probably going to skip all the way down to step 6, which is deploying new cards. You both start the game with your full allotment of will active. So if he starts like maybe trying to throw some cyber or hacking or stuff at you, you will have an ability to respond if you have appropriate cards in your hand because your will is active at the start of the game.
Okay, and so the numbers down at the bottom are what you need to get them on the.
Yeah, so in the white box, it's what it costs to deploy it.
Okay.
And the black box is what you lose in will if that unit is destroyed.
Okay. So if that one gets destroyed, that's where we set the 3 aside, and I may
Yes.
have other cards to bring it back later.
Yes. And if your unit's destroyed, it does not go out of the game. It goes to the bottom of your pile.
Oh, okay.
It's destroyed in the military sense of it's combat ineffective.
Yeah.
You're going to have to reconstitute it to bring it back into the field. The main way that you recover will is using your logistics
Yep.
and a couple of other cards to do humanitarian aid. That applies in urban domains. So you've got a couple here. You've got the port. You've got some towns, and you, based on the resist value of that urban domain, which I use to represent the population density, you can spend some of your will to recover lost will from your lost pile, or you can use it to drain it from your opponent. You're basically using the power of good vibes and giving away free stuff to either make you look better or make your opponent look worse.
Yeah, but if you're playing the Canadians, how much worse can they really look?
So, and they're all humanitarian.
I'm gonna draw this card, so I'm gonna expend a will to discard this, put it on my deck. Spend another one, draw a card.
So he's on step 2 now. So
Yeah.
I've got nobody can move. Nobody's on no engagement, no combat, no deployment, new cards. So I want to get these onto the board. That's 12.
okay. So that first step on
Yep.
on the first turn, like the top 7 cards of your deck are your starting hand. Normally, like those first 7 cards, you would want all of them because that's like you picked them to start the game, right? However, depending on if you're on the domain laydown or what your opponent does, you may want to change that perhaps, which is what Oliver did. So this step here, if you want to, you can spend a will card to discard a card from your hand to the bottom of your maneuver deck,
Yep.
and or spend another will to draw the next card from there.
Do you have a hand size limit?
Yeah, 7 cards.
Okay. So I can't just like spin 5 to throw 12 cards into my hand and then start playing stuff. Okay.
Okay, so 4 cards.
So it's 7 at all times, no matter what.
Yeah. You can have less, but you can't have more. And this step, like, if you want, there's no limit to how much you use this step. So if you really want card 30 on the bottom of your deck, and you want to spend all of your will just to get down there, you can. That's your choice. But you will have used all of your currency to do anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll reveal this stealth unit to show you that I have leadership, which means that you throw away.
So he's now captured this key terrain. He controls it at the end of the turn, so you now have to lose 1 will.
Are we at the end of the turn?
Yes. Because he went, so on the first turn of the game,
Yeah.
usually 3, 4, and 5, this is movement and combat.
Yeah.
Nothing's on the table, so we sort of skip that. Deploy new cards. So he threw down Missile
Yeah.
Cruiser with its logistics support, and then Scout Sniper Team onto the mountains here. The mountains are the key terrain. And
So it's checked at the end of
Yeah,
each
so-
player, not both players.
yeah, so
Okay. So how many do I lose?
Yeah, so you lose 1. So that check, that happens for both players at the end of the turn. In this case, the key terrain card, it's only it only applies at the end of his turn to exercise the control. However, on my objective cards, which are more important, every turn, at the end of every player's turn, if you control the objective, you can drain your opponent.
Gotcha.
So you need to go after those objectives pretty hard.
At the end of my turn, after showing that I've got leadership, I can put it back to stealth.
Yeah.
You can't shoot at it unless you can manage to detect it.
Yeah, so there's a few cards in the game, and I forget if you start. You don't start with one, but they have this characteristic of stealthy.
Yeah.
So this means it deploys and moves face down.
Yeah.
All right, cards that are in a face down condition, you cannot target them for anything, but it also means their card text is inactive. For stealthy units, for the controlling player, at any point during either player's turn, you can choose to purposely reveal it.
Gotcha.
That lets you use the card characteristics, but now it's targetable. On the flip side, in combat, you can use your firepower to suppress an opponent's card, which will force it to be upside down and cancel its text for the rest of the turn, which can be good for, say, suppressing someone's logistics, because then that cuts down the ability of the rest of the cards. But at the end of every turn, any stealthy card that's been revealed reconceals itself automatically. All right, and that being the last step of the turn, it's going to go over.
All right, I'm not going to try and cycle through extra cards over here. I'm just going to try and figure out what I've got here. So this dude deploys the information domain, right?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to set that one over there. Can't do anything with that one yet, I don't think. We'll get back to him.
So to deploy your mobile logistics, you need to control
something
one of these things, which is why you get the local irregulars.
Yeah.
Have the gate to establish that.
Yeah. Okay, so this one's gonna cost me 5. That dude's gonna cost me 1, and he's stealthy, so I can throw him upside down. He cost me 1 to get out there, right? Yeah. All right, and then all right, that guy cost me 5 to get out there, right?
Yep.
This unit is your only. It's used right. Oh, okay. That's cool. Oh,
Yeah, that's
cool.
your Wagner group right there.
Yeah, but there's no leadership on it.
Correct.
So throwing those guys to go try and fight for the mountains doesn't help me anyway.
Well, they can initiate a fight, but they won't be able to control it. Correct.
Yeah. All right. So
You also have that mobile logistics in your hand.
Yeah.
And that's going to be what lets you recover lost will, and or drain it from your opponent.
but I can't get him out there until I control something.
So this is kind of how I built this first hand.
Yeah.
To establish control, you just have to say you reveal your irregulars.
Okay.
Now they've established control because they have leadership.
I still gotta pay my 1 to get, and I gotta pay my 5 to get those guys out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, those are out there. All that's done. Okay, so I've paid for everything that's on the board so far. So then I can add that dude for another 1, right?
Yep.
That's another 1 there. And then I don't want to do anything with any of those yet.
Yeah. So your
That
drone,
guy,
if you're looking
I
at that. So
Can't just leave him out there to like target that dude as soon as he pops up.
you could, and it's also got a detectability, so you could
Okay.
try and force detection to target that card if you were inclined.
All right, well, let's try it, because... Okay, so that's my 3 to deploy him, right? Cost me 3 to deploy him. So I got him out there. In case anybody's wondering, it's the medium-high altitude UAS. All right, cool. So now we're going to use our detect at +1. Okay, Dell?
So you could try and force a detection right now because the opposing player can always try and do a detection if they have an eligible card there. However, you're not going to be able to attack him inside of your turn. So if you spend will to go do it, you may find him, but he's just going to hide again because you won't be able to actually kill him.
Gotcha.
However, on the next turn, if you want to try and force a detection and strike during his engagement phase, you can do that. So the engagement phase is the only step of the game where both players can decide to
Can do
pick a
stuff.
fight.
Okay, so these guys are stealthy. They're gonna flip over. This guy is not stealthy. He's
Correct.
just gonna
So they'll
sit
just
there.
stay there.
They're just gonna sit there. That guy doesn't matter. He's information space. There's
And
no
now,
stealth.
if that's all you're going to do, you have this wheel left active. It's good to have some wheel active to use during your opponent's turn because
Yeah.
then you can do things like force the detection and then initiate an engagement to try and destroy it.
Yeah, and I don't have enough to really do much else here anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you could possibly deploy that attack enabler if you wanted to, but
yeah. All right.
okay. So you end with this active. This use goes back to your reserve pile here, and then it goes back.
Like
to,
right now, it does.
Yeah. At the end of the turn, your used stuff just goes back to kind of like a ready state.
Okay.
No, sorry.
No.
Your active stays separate,
3, 4.
but the stuff you just used just kind of comes back to your reserve.
Gotcha.
This comes back to spin wheel to draw, discard maneuver cards. We're gonna need that.
You're playing all these face up. I can play them face up.
Yeah, this is just it's a tutorial.
Trying to. Yeah.
Well, yeah, leaders are actually better even on the
And for these two tutorial decks, I built they're sort of asymmetric. So blue has a lot of kind of conventional combat abilities, whereas red I give them more, irregulars, little things you can do to screw with your opponent.
All right. So there's our turn sequence, and there's a very glared enabler key. Sorry, the white lights overhead plus card sleeves. All right, so our area here, we got an information domain, there's space, and then we've got open water, port, farm, town, mountain, another town, more farm, more port, more open water. So very symmetrical battlefield, which is fine.
That's on purpose.
Yeah, figured. That's the UASs that I put out there. Here's what I'm still holding in my hand. I've got some very glary contested logistics. Not picking on you, it's the lights in here. Like anytime we try to take pictures on the weekends, this does it too. Missile defense system, and I've got my PMCs, so that's our Wagners. I don't know, I guess I can go recruit from the local jail. There's my mobile logistics that's out there to just help do stuff. And then there's the local irregulars that I've got to get control of the port. So, but they are, because they are stealthy, I get to hide them. Haha.
And I have port,
Let's get Oliver over there.
no
doing some stuff.
engagement because they have no air to
Yeah.
ground.
So, now if you wanted to, you're
Not movement to contact, with engagement, then that's movement to contact. Now deploy new cards, now own the port.
So before you get to the deployment stage, because you moved your military sea lift into the port, you can now use it to do humanitarian aid. You haven't lost any will yet, but you now control that port, so you could use it to drain will from him using humanitarian aid.
You bastard. How dare you try to win the game? What's the matter with you?
I can burn 2 to cost you
Yeah,
2 cards.
so yeah, you use 2, he's going to lose 2.
Yep, I'll do it.
Okay, so that's 2 cards out of the game for me for right now.
Yes.
Okay, so those are going over there.
So they'll go face up in that separate.
Oh, okay. How did I lose one already?
Because he controlled the key terrain.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Damn it.
So now I need to get this out onto the
So
port.
that's the key terrain info down there that
Cards,
tells me
so
that
that's 6. 1,
Oliver's beating me up. All right, we're gonna park this back over here. Wide angle view. We're not gonna get this whole game on the video because the phone's already starting to overheat a little. I can feel it. I wasn't expecting to get the
I
whole
can
game.
wave my hand.
Nah, it's fine. This is the older phone that I use specifically for video stuff like this. That's not the real phone is in the pocket. The volume's not
I
on.
will go ahead and burn 2 more and deploy.
Clearly, somebody wants to. You couldn't call them Marines, huh?
No, I learned from Sebastian the hard way.
You know what's hilarious about that? Go pick up Fields of Fire Volume 3.
Oh, I know. I would
There's
like.
Marine shit everywhere.
Oh, I know. Like when he first told me that this was a thing, I went through some like random GMT games, and I'm like, next war says Marine all over the place. Like, And he's like, they probably don't care, but GMT, if they wanted to fight it, they probably could.
I actually talked to a copyright lawyer, like a real media copyright lawyer, said if, not that you would want to, if y'all took Marines court, they'd lose. Hands down. Hands down.
Yeah, that was the sense, but it was not a fight that he wanted to pick.
Well, because of his day job. I get it.
Yeah.
And I understand the sensitivities of it. I totally get it. Plus, there's the cost factor of you'd have to go get a lawyer to do that. But it's the Marines being assholes.
Oh,
I know you were one. It's the Marines being assholes.
When he told me that there was actually a trademark list, I didn't believe him. And he sent me the link, and I was like, I can't believe the Marine Corps got away with this, because a Marine is simply a naval infantry that goes back to the ages of the Greeks, or further, right? But no, the funny part was, after the commercial version came out, somebody up at headquarters of Marine Corps was like, "Man, this is great. Why didn't can we put Marine on it or something?" He was like, "You motherfuckers."
Yeah.
No, it's
Please
not on
allow me
there.
to hit you with a boat oar. Yeah.
No.
No, dude, I get it. I get it.
No.
The Army had copyrighted the Big Red One briefly, and I think somebody actually challenged that one for it. But there was branded Big Red One merchandise that in Target and Walmart for a while, and then that went away in a hurry. Somebody realized, oh, we probably can't get away with that.
Yeah. No. If some Marine Corps would deserve to lose that case because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so all right. So it's going to go back to you.
Well, I'm gonna, at the
Go on,
end
sir.
of my turn.
Okay. Yeah. So he's
leadership,
gonna, and you're gonna lose another one.
I go ahead some more. But now I can
That seems a little too, once he reveals, if he voluntarily comes out of stealth mode, I should have the opportunity as an interrupt to try and target that. Otherwise, he's got to stay hidden and doesn't get control. But if he says, "Haha, I'm here," and plants his flag, I should be able to shoot the shit out of him.
Well, so at the end of your last turn, I mentioned
I could
you had
try
active
to
will.
detect.
You could have forced a detection during the engagement phase and tried to kill it.
So during his engagement phase,
Yeah. So
Oh.
in the engagement phase, both players, if you want to, you can start an engagement.
all right. Well, let's just for the sake of making shit happen today. Does this one engage?
You first
He's
have
got
to
to strike.
It does, but you first have to.
No, I know I got to try to detect it, but there's no point trying to detect him if I can't shoot him. So, okay, so we've got to detect it +1, so how does this mechanic
so the
work? I'm
way-
going to draw a detect card here,
Yeah,
right?
so the way detect is, so you got to use your active will to force the detection, and you would basically, so first you have to figure out what his total resist value is. So he's got a 2, but he's in really nasty terrain, so his base resist is 5.
Okay.
To detect him, you need more than 3 times his resist value on these detection numbers here.
I need to triple it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so yeah.
So you would need to spend will cards and add up to 16 or more to force a detection.
I get a +1 out of this, so I'd need a 15 or more, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So no, there's no point in
So you
trying.
didn't have enough will to force that detection
Okay.
in that case.
Got it. All right, so then I'm still losing one out of the deck.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter where you pull the one that you toss
No,
off
it's
the
up
side.
to you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so my turn's done, your group.
So I recycle all this. All right, so I need to draw some cards. I'm not discarding anything, but I'm going to spend 4. I'm just going to turn those sideways so I try to remember which deck is which. All right, so I'm drawing 4 more cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see what I get out of all of this. A bunch of cyber stuff.
All right. And also, okay, so you got an NGO relief team. This is
Yep.
another way to do humanitarian aid to recover lost will. So remembering on the table, you've already got logistics here.
Yep.
At the end of your turn, you can use them to recover some of that lost will.
Okay.
And then once you deploy the NGO team, on your next turn, you'll be able to use them to recover it as well.
Okay.
So that'll let you have a will recovery engine that can sort of staunch the bleeding, and because you both kind of have that on the table now you're going to have to go aggressively after each other because you'll both be able to offset.
Yeah. Okay, so I needed to save the 2 to get him
So
out
before you
there,
do
right?
that, do you want to try and kill them? Because deploying
because
cards
I
is
gotta
after
get-
combat.
Yes, but I don't know what I've got to. Well, I got to keep drawing out of here then, right?
Yeah, so first you'd have to, let's see how much will you got. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got 7.
Yeah.
You probably want to keep at least 2 so you can do that.
Yep.
Right? You may or may not want to do 2.
But I need to do that to get some back.
Yeah. So you probably want to keep 2 to do that, which means if you really want to kill that, you've got up to 5 to force a detection and then do an engagement.
So when we're doing the, hold on, let's back up over here. So present urban domain you control, you may use X will to conduct humanitarian aid. That gives a resist bonus to that domain, in that domain. But what were you saying about I'm using him to recover stuff?
Yeah, so in the rules,
Okay.
the humanitarian aid, the keyword, that's what lets you either recover lost will of your own
Okay.
based on the population
Or burn
density,
some of his.
or burn some of his.
Okay,
So
got it.
you can do one or the other, not both. You probably want to recover at this
Yeah.
point, but the point is that's what that does.
Okay, got it. I was looking for that on the card somewhere, but I understand what you're saying about it.
It's,
So
yeah, the key stuff, it's in the rules.
yeah, that's fine. Okay, so how many do I have here?
So you got 7.
All right.
So you know that you got to get at least a 15.
15.
That's at least 3 cards probably. It's going to cost you 1 to do an engagement, and then you're probably going to need to do 1 more to add a strike fog of war draw to make sure you absolutely kill that.
Okay, so I probably don't have enough cards left in there to do
You may. I'm saying it's going to be tight.
Yeah.
And you want to keep at least 2, I would say, so you can do your.
Now
humanitarian.
let's skip that for now and let's beef everything else up a little here. So, all right. So, maybe there. If not in range of if not in range of my ground logistics. What's my ground
so that's this
logistics
guy.
range?
So he provides
Within 1 land. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he could push logistics out.
So I can move him there. Okay, so all right, so I've expended the will to draw my cards. I got my cards. Now we're trying to figure out what to do. So movement to contact, is that like literally any kind of movement?
So that's
If I moved him from here to here.
No, so move to contact is if you need to move units within like firing range to
Okay.
strike something, that's when you can do it. You can only move units once per turn, either during movement to contact or non-combat moves, not both.
Oh, I see. I
So
wasn't
if you're
reading
not
that.
if you're not going to do any engagements, then you would just skip movement to contact.
Yeah, so we'll skip all the way down
So
to
before you do
non-combat.
that, Oliver, you potentially have the option if you wanted to fire on his logistics because they are exposed. You would be. I don't know how much will you have active right now. Okay, but you don't have. You probably you don't. Yeah, but again, during the engagement phase, just because you don't want to fight doesn't mean he might not want to
Yeah,
fight.
no, that makes sense. Got it. All right. So then I'm off to my non-combat.
How many
Okay, sorry.
cards do I need to activate the cruiser to shoot him?
So let's see here. Actually,
Cruiser's got infinite range.
yeah, and it's got a strike power of 8. Actually, you could probably do that because you need. Let's see, you need more than double his total resist value. So he's got 1. You got +2 for being in urban environments. So resist of 3, double that at 6. Your baseline is 8. So you could destroy him if you wanted to, but you'd be losing that will to fight in an urban area rather than just. Up to you.
When I do humanitarian aid, if I've got, and I burn 2 on this unit, and I've only got 1 dead, can I bring the 1 dead back and cost him 1?
No. Well, so with that 1 unit, no. However, you've got 2. Your C lift, so your C lift could drain, and your EAB could recover for you with their individual mechanics.
Astounded that the video is still going.
So actually, yeah. So I mean, not trying to screw you over, but you could easily kill that logistics.
Okay, so if I shoot this,
So that's gonna go to your loss file. So you're gonna flip it over.
Because it's urban terrain.
Yeah, yeah. So to indicate that he's fired, we tilt it 45 degrees to the.
You can't say you're tapping him. That term is copyrighted by
We're
Watson.
tilting. We're just tilting.
We're tilting. We're expending.
Yeah. So he's doing an engagement to do a long range strike on your logistics.
And I got nothing to do anything about it.
Well, you did, but it's not on the
But
table.
I can't deploy it
But,
yet.
yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So you can either, for a long range strike, you choose either to suppress or destroy. To suppress, all you need is 1 more than its resist value. and that would cause the card to flip over and basically be like neutered for the rest of the turn.
Yeah.
To destroy, you have to have more than double its resist value, and I wrote the rule so that you have to declare if you're trying to suppress or destroy before you fire, because there are weaponeering considerations that would go into suppressing a target versus
Yeah.
destroying it. Anyway, but so your base resist is 1. You get a +2 for being in the urban area, but his missile cruiser missiles have a power of 8.
Yeah.
So doesn't really help you. He easily destroys you. So you're going to rotate the card 90 degrees to indicate it's been hit. Will be destroyed at the end of the engagement phase. So now, if you were,
He's gonna go to the bottom of his deck and just write it.
yeah. So now in the engagement phase, it's an I go, you go. He went. He completed that engagement. If you wanted to, now you could try and do something back to him.
Okay. Well, the only thing I have would be
Yeah, you would
try
have to
and do
force
that.
a detection and try
And
and.
I don't have enough cards to really try to do that at this point. Because I still have other things I want to get on the map.
Yeah. So if you decide not to, and he's done with his engagements, then we'd move the end of the engagement phase. Cards that have been destroyed, they come off. They're going to go on the bottom, and you're now going to lose 5 will from your one of your piles for that loss.
Okay, so that's 5 temporary, or that's 5 out of the game?
That's
Or-
5 out of the game to your loss pile.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's easy. All right.
Okay, so now we go to non-combat moves. And if you're not moving, then we go to deployment.
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything else to move at this point, because I don't think I want to move these guys yet. Well,
Depends. Like if you want to keep control of that fort, keeping them there, we'll let you do that.
but I could deploy something else to get control of the fort too, right?
You could, although depending on what you deploy, you would need something there to already control it. So like if you wanted to do the naval infantry, something has to be there to control
Oh, because
it.
I've already got it. Okay, so got it. So I need to leave him there. Because he can't control.
Correct.
All right.
So I would maybe throw out like that NGO team. You need something to start recovering will.
Yeah.
Your game's gonna end.
Okay, so that's 2 to get the NGO team out there,
Yeah,
and that's
and
to
that's-
any urban.
That's any urban domain.
And then I need another 1 to get my naval infantry out there. Those guys are not stealthy, so they stay face up.
Yeah, and so to set conditions to deploy them, you would reveal your irregulars. Now they control. Now you deploy.
Got it. Okay, and then
And it leaves you with you got 3 left.
and I'm not gonna recycle. Am I gonna recycle these as soon as I'm done?
No, so your spent will go back to your reserve pile.
Yeah.
You'll keep that 3 active, and then at the start of your next
Start of my turn is
it'll
okay.
all consolidate.
So I need to leave some there for when I come back up. When he's playing, I've got something to work with.
And then if you're done, we check victory or objectives. You don't control that, so nothing happens. They'll
I
go.
was just looking to see if there was.
So some
I
of
don't
your
think that does any good right now. I was just looking to see if any of these other cards would be worth trying to do something with, but I don't
So
think so.
it depends. This actually, if you played it during his turn, it would actually kind of dealer's choice. He's got 2 logistics units there. This would cancel their card text for the rest of his turn.
Yeah.
Which means he cannot use that card to do humanitarian aid.
Yeah. No, that's
a
okay. So I got to do it
possible
during his turn.
Yeah, you would want to wait because if you do it right now, at the end of your turn, which is 2 seconds from now,
Comes back up. Got it. Okay, so I think I'm done with everything I'm going to try to do at this point. So these guys come back over.
Yep.
I don't recycle this stuff because that happens at the start of my turn.
Yes. So
These
you've got
guys are
3
just
active
sitting there.
right now.
Yeah.
Which you could. So that's going to depend on the deployment cost for the target. Actually,
It says
so,
X will the target that provides X equals unit deployment cost. Okay, what's his deployment?
so 4 and 6. So you don't.
I
You're
couldn't
one.
do anything.
You're 1 short.
I've only got 3 left. Okay. Well, if I'm 1 short of that, I'm short of doing anything else here.
He's always short.
Yep.
Okay, then your turn would be over, and we'll goes back to Blake.
Strikes from long range. So if this had been out there, would it have been effective against the cruise missile? Is that a long range
Yes.
missile? Okay. Well, then let's do this. We're gonna burn the 3 will to get that out there, because I can attach him to the naval infantry.
Yep.